the founder of Black Lives Matter, Patrisse Cullors, co-founder really, she has stepped down, resigned. She's going to be moving on from the foundation. And we've talked a lot about her. For some time, I thought that BLM might be a force for good. I thought that maybe we were going to see some real momentum behind justice reform in the United States. And I was really on board with anybody who was on the side of justice. I like that. I don't care who it is. Democrats, liberals, Republicans, libertarians, whatever. If you are somebody who is meaningfully and proactively and with some respect and, I would say professionally moving the ball forward on any justice reform issues, I'm okay having a conversation with you about it. Unfortunately, oftentimes in this space, we have a lot of grifters. We have a lot of people who say that they're for justice, and then their words don't really match their actions. And so now that Patrisse Cullors is stepping down from the foundation, I'm not losing any sleep over it. I'm okay with it because this woman was a massive grifter, and she was undermining the justice reform movement from the top. From BLM, I have no love for people who do that. And so she is stepping down, and I say good riddance because we'll see if we can get some other meaningful people on board. Here she is stepping down from the movement. She's a co-founder. She announced yesterday that she is stepping down as the executive director of the movement's foundation. She decried what she called a smear campaign from a far-right group, but she said that neither that nor recent criticism from her BLM black organizers, influenced her departure. All right, so then why is it happening right now? She's been at the helm of BLM Global Network for 6 years, leaving to focus on other projects, including her second book, multi-year TV development deal with Warner Bros. Her last day is Friday today. She said, I've created an infrastructure and support, necessary bones of the foundation so that I can leave. It feels like the time is right. Her departure follows a massive surge in support and political influence in the U.S. around the world. This was established nearly 8 years ago in response to injustice against Black Americans, which I'm all for, right? I don't like injustice. I'm all for fighting against injustice, but they kind of have shifted away from that, as we've talked about a lot on this channel. We've talked about this, right? This is not me just sort of ranting off this one story. We've gone through the BLM list of demands on their website. You can go look it up yourself. Has nothing really to do with justice. 1 of 7 of their demands has anything to do with justice. The rest of it is just anti-Republican, anti-Trump garbage that has nothing to do with criminal reform. So, a bizarre thing that she's the head of a justice reform movement that doesn't do any justice reform. The 37-year-old activist said her resignation has been in the works for more than a year. Nothing to do with the personal attacks she has faced from far-right groups or any dissension within the movement. So if this were something that were, in my opinion, really about justice, it wouldn't have devolved into this left versus right thing. Unfortunately, this absolutely has. And BLM has oriented itself to be in total alignment with the Democrats. And we can see that from their own organization. Go on there. It says they want to remove Trump off of the internet. They want him banned from all social media platforms. They also want to make sure that every single person who, helped the insurrection back on January 6th never is allowed to run for office again. They also want to make sure that Trump cannot be allowed to run for president again. And so, it's a list of demands that the Democrats might have put out. So why are we pretending like this is anything to do with justice anymore? And you can see this here. She says, quote, "Those were right-wing attacks that tried to discredit my character. I don't operate off of what the right thinks about me." Well, you sort of quit because of that. It feels like that to me anyways. As she departs, the foundation is bringing aboard 2 new interim senior executives to help steer the future. The Amanifa Baddeley, longtime BLM. We got a Malcolm X grassroots movements. Makana Thimba, we have an early backer of the BLM movement. Chief strategist, somebody from Higher Ground Change Strategies. All right, Cullors said, I think both of them come not only with a wealth of movement experience, but also a wealth of executive experience. BLM revealed to the AP that in February, they took in $90 million last year following the May 2000, $90 million this year following the death of George Floyd, black man whose last breaths raised attention globally. Foundation ended 2020 with more than $60 million. They spent nearly a quarter of its assets on operating expenses. So of that, a balance of more than $60 million. So you think a quarter of that, $15 million on operating expenses, then grants to Black-led organizations and other charitable giving. Oh, okay. So operating plus organizations plus charitable giving. Okay, so where's that? What's the other $60 million doing sitting in their bank account? All right, so here she is now. Here she is. She's going to start talking about Marxism and civil rights and sort of, opining at what a disaster it is that Marxism is not around anymore. So here she is. This is a BLM person talking about Marxism. I don't know.
I think there's been, the state has organized itself to dismantle movements in this country. There was a robust Communist Party. There was a robust civil rights and human rights movement, the Panther Party. And we have been systematically destroyed and decimated. And so we are literally left with the civil rights establishment, which is not a movement, which is often co-opted by police and elected officials. And many of us are trying to rebuild a human rights movement that is centered around fighting anti-Black racism and centered around organizing and building with poor people, all poor people. So I think
all poor people, you're not one of them, because your foundation just raised $90 million, 60 of that, which is still sitting in a bank account apparently. So of course people are critical of this spending because she's making a lot of money, and she's talking about, Marxism, and she's talking about squashing of the movements, and she's got the biggest movement in the country right now. That's a political movement, right? It's BLM. Is there anything that's bigger than that? She raised $100 million. What's so oppressive about this? I don't know. She sounds pretty hard up though. Things are pretty tough for her. Now, critics of the foundation contend that more of the money should have gone to families of Black victims, no kidding, who have been unable to access the resources needed to deal with their trauma and loss. That is the most tragic aspect, said Reverend Sherry Dickerson, president of Oklahoma City BLM chapter and a representative of BLM 10, a national group of organizers that has publicly criticized the foundation over funding and transparency. Says, quote, "I know some of the families are feeling exploited. They're paying exploited. And that's not something I ever want to be affiliated with," said Dickerson. Good for her. Cullors and the foundation said that they do support families without making public announcements or disclosing dollar amounts. Why not? Why not? Where are those? Where are those money? Didn't Breonna Taylor's mom come out and say they've got nothing from BLM? Why would that be? Could it be because they are grifters, pocketing all of the money? Well, here is what the inside of her homes look like. We have Patrisse Cullors' $1 million real estate buying binge. This article came out this year, April 10th, 2021, which many people are saying was what prompted Cullors to bail in the first place. Protests broke out across the country in the name of BLM. The co-founder of BLM went on a real estate buying binge. She snagged 4 high-end homes for $3.2 million in the U.S. alone, according to property records. So 4 houses, $3.2 million. She also eyed property in the Bahamas, an ultra-exclusive resort where Justin Timberlake and Tiger Woods both have homes, the Post has learned. Luxury apartments and townhouses at the beachfront of Albany Resort outside are priced $5 million and $20 million apiece. The self-described Marxist last month purchased a $1.4 million home on a secluded road to a short drive from Malibu, according to a report. 2,300 square foot property, soaring ceilings, skylights, plenty of windows, with canyon views. Oh, it sounds very lovely. The Topanga Canyon homestead, which includes 2 houses on a quarter acre, is just one of 3 homes that she owns in the Los Angeles area, according to public records. Some fellow activists were taken aback by the real estate revelations. No kidding. You're kidding. She's out there fighting for the poor, damn it. And those police, they're squashing your movements. And we're going to be out there just out representing the underserved. Here's her house in Georgia. Here's one of them. So this looks, very meek and modest. Here's her home outdoors in Georgia. Got an indoor pool over there. And, all right. Well, listen, I am not somebody who dislikes capitalism or nice things. Okay. I encourage people to go out, do good in society. I think you can do well while doing good. There's nothing wrong with that. But this woman sort of speaks out against the entire system. White supremacy, systemic racism. We've got police quashing, her ideological movements. We've got communism is something that she espouses. She's very happy about it. We've got a whole list of demands that she wants to use to silence her political enemies. And now she's living in three houses. $3.2 million all over the place. I think Rekieta Media, Nick Rekieta over on YouTube, we had an interview a while back. He posted on Twitter. I think he summarized this up the best of anybody. He said here on Twitter, Says, it sucks that no matter how hard I try, I'll never grift as hard as this heap of garbage. Here is co-founder Patrisse Cullors resigning as the executive director. Pocketed a lot of money. In 2020, the BLM organization spun off its network and its chapters, sister collective called BLM Grassroots, so they could put out, themselves as a philanthropic organization. In April, the foundation started. Cullors said that she had received a total of $120,000 prior to 2019. Now, as a registered 501c3 nonprofit, they said they cannot, use that money to divvy out for personal property. She says any insinuation or assertion to the contrary is categorically false. 2018, she released When They Call You a Terrorist, a BLM memoir, became a New York Times best-selling movement. She and BLM come a long way since they started against George Zimmerman. They founded a decentralized movement. She's the most publicly visible of the co-founders. They say we needed her. George Floyd quote, there that is. On October 5th, they're going to release her latest book called An Abolitionist Handbook. I wonder if she's going to redistribute those profits from each according to their means to each according to their needs. I wonder if she'll do that. Which she says is her guide for activists on how to care for each other and resolve internal conflict while fighting to end systemic racism. She's also developing and producing an original cable and streaming TV content that centers on Black stories under a multi-deal with Warner Bros. She says, I think I'll probably be less visible. No kidding. Because I won't be at the helm of one of the largest, most controversial organizations. I'm aware that I'm a leader. I don't shy away from that, but no movement is one leader. So bye, good riddance, enjoy your nice property. It's a shame that people donate to this organization thinking that they're going to do something meaningful. They don't do anything meaningful, really. I mean, they're producing some content, I guess. So if you want to think of it like an entertainment show, I guess that's one thing you could do. But we saw their list of demands. We've seen what they're doing in Congress. Nobody's responding to anything that they're doing. And so, all right. Thanks for playing. Enjoy your 3.2 million new properties and your book deals and your movie deals. But thanks for not doing anything to contribute to society. In fact, thanks for stealing $90 million that could have gone to other more meaningful property, more meaningful reform movements or efforts. Now it's just in your house. That's great. All right. Now, we have another defund the police person over here that has his car stolen. This story came over from Fox News. The defund the police backer has his car stolen by kids, and he's actually an Atlanta city councilman. He wants to be the next mayor of Atlanta, and he was out there at a ribbon cutting ceremony in an event in Atlanta when around noon, at least 4 kids jumped into his car and took off. He said, you don't think immediately that, oh, these kids are going to steal my car. The incident occurred amid a recent crime wave in the city. Last year, he voted in support of the ordinance to withhold $73 million from the budget of the Atlanta Police Department. The ordinance was narrowly voted down. So Antonio Brown, he's at a ribbon cutting ceremony. Some kids jump in his car. They ride off with it. He wanted to defund the police. He says that Brown on Thursday denied saying that he never supported, quote, defunding the police, but added that I support reimagining public safety, as I've always stated in every public and private conversation on this issue. So kind of a little bit of a discrepancy there, isn't it? Defund the police backer. He says, no, I don't support defunding the police, but I will vote to withhold $73 million. So how do you balance that? And how do you say, can you split hairs like that? Can you say, I don't support defunding the police? No, I love the police, actually. I think that they should be, they should have all of the resources that they need, but just not going to vote for their budget. Can't have it both ways, my friend. Brown said that the thieves jumped in his vehicle on Wednesday after he got out to speak with community leader Ben Norman, noted that his white Mercedes-Benz coupe has keyless push-to-start ignition, failed to realize it had been started. Councilman described the kids as being between ages 6 and 12. 4 kids between 6 and 12 stole this guy's car at a ribbon cutting ceremony. Does a 12-year-old even know how to drive a car? What? The councilman said one kid was in the driver's seat. Ben attempted to open the door to get him out of the car. This is the councilman. He fought with Ben. I then engaged him to try to get him out of the car. The 3 other kids were trying to figure out how to get in the car or stay out of the car. He started to hit on the gas. Brown added that he had held onto the car in an attempt to stop them and was dragged about a block down the road before letting them go. Remember, we saw this happen previously. I think it was 2 14-year-old girls, and they ended up killing that man. He was an Uber driver. I forget what city that was out of. Same type of story, though. He was delivering a meal, and they just hopped in his car. I think he actually did try to hang on. They spun out. Car flipped over. He gets thrown out of it. He's dead on the side of the road. One of the girls goes, My cell phone's still in the car. Can we get that? Prosecutors charge the girls, but they're going to handle them as minors. I don't think it's going to be any worse than that. So, what a terrible thing. What's happening with the youth out there? Is this a thing? Are they just taking cars? As he started to speed up, I knew that if I had not let go, I probably would have killed myself because he was going so fast. I would have started to tumble and I would have him hurt him. Brown doesn't plan on filing charges against the kid. He says they just acted out of desperation. He said, this is a generational poverty issue, folks. These kids, 12:30 in the afternoon, why aren't they in school? Why aren't we enforcing systems to ensure that if they are not in school, they're in recreational centers? He said, well, I don't know who's going to enforce. I mean, I guess, does he want police or does he want like enforcing systems? Does he mean like some laws to enforce things like maybe like law enforcement, I guess, might be something that might work. I don't know. Atlanta police are investigating. Brown is under federal indictment on federal fraud charges relating to incidents that occurred in the years prior to him winning the council seat, according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. So this is a generational poverty issue, folks. Kids stealing cars, 6 to 12, actually. You know what? There's this, I don't know if you know this, but there's this new movement right now where 12-year-olds, you ever see that movie Fast and Furious or Gone in 60 Seconds? Yeah, that's what's happening right now. So we've got 12-year-olds boosting cars, and they've got some pretty important people they got to pay off pretty quickly. Otherwise, this stuff could get bad. And if we just fixed generational poverty, maybe those 12-year-olds wouldn't have to boost cars and steal them to drug dealers and make their living that way. They should be in school learning about math equations. All right, Hack Consulting is first up from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Says, I presented Maoism as a religion to my class this week. Lumped all the socialism, Marxism under the title too, with the caveat that Maoism has turned into a religion. Still doing Clubhouse? I am not actually Hack. So Maoism, along with socialism, it fits. You've got them lumped together. That all fits pretty well. I was a political science major. I've read a lot of that stuff. And it is fascinating how backwards it is if you actually read it. I'm not really spending much time on Clubhouse anymore. That was sort of a fad, I'll admit. I was really enjoying it. And it was weird. Clubhouse was something that sort of evolved, I think, strangely. There was a moment when everybody was first on Clubhouse, when everybody was really open to listening. Everybody was really, conversational. They'd say, hey, I've got my opinion. And you'd say, wow, that's a great opinion. I'm open to listening to that. Thank you for sharing that. And you'd receive that. And that other person would stop talking so that you could say something, and then they could receive that, and you would have legitimate conversations. Now, everybody just wants to talk. Nobody wants to listen to anything. Everybody just wants to run their mouths. And it's really weird to kind of go into a room and have people stepping all over each other. And so I think the culture has kind of, gotten sick of waiting and listening, which is really what was the most interesting thing about the whole format. And I've gone into rooms. I still go into some of the woke rooms. They're hilarious. If you want to go into a room and see what's really going on with this woke culture stuff that we talk about, you can absolutely see that in Spaces on Twitter and on Clubhouse. You can go into some of these rooms. You got to find them a little bit. If you don't follow those people, you won't come across them. But if you go into one of these rooms where they're talking about, I don't know, something, pick something, and it's political in nature, but you're going to hear all these people with all these weird rules about conversations, about holding the space and about stepping up and exercising a point of privilege on behalf of somebody else, that you're going, what are they talking about in here? This is weird. I'm leaving. Nothing's going to get done. We have Sharon Quidney says BLM was never about justice from the get-go. They are a Marxist organization with a purely political agenda. Really hilarious that this Marxist goes and buys a multi-million-dollar pad. Yeah, sounds like several of them. 3.2 million spread across 3 houses. Living good. Hey, that Marxism is good as long as it's not for you. It's good for everybody else, right? Everybody else should give up their stuff for you. If you're a good Marxist, that's really how it works out. The people on the top, they live well while everybody else lives poorly. Hack Consulting says this poor person crap does not agree with Marxism, so get out of here with that crap. I agree with you. Yeah, get out of here. It's nonsense. What are you talking about? We have Macabre says BLM is a domestic terrorist organization. That's all. Well, Look, that label, I don't agree with that. I don't say that right now. I'm not alleging that here on this channel. But if we're going to be calling everything domestic violent extremism, and we're going to lump in all of the insurrectionists, well, I think the label, if we're going to apply the standards equally across the board, I think it also applies to BLM. Domestic terrorist organization or domestic violent extremist, the DVEs that we keep hearing a lot about from the Biden administration, I think that's a better label for them, because they're going to be look, presuming that they're labeling everybody that, I think it's a bogus label. I think the whole thing's asinine. We already have law enforcement. We don't need to create a new category of domestic violent extremists. We already have criminal laws here, a lot of them, all over the place, along with the FBI, ATF, the list goes on. All right. We have Sumper Sun is in the house. Sumper Sun, I haven't seen that name before. What's up, Sumper Sun? Says, I note she didn't buy any inner city properties. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Right? Malibu, places in California, LA. Why, that's weird. I wonder why that is. We have LT13 in the house, says, luckily, DC had their amazing mayor to make an announcement that carjackings are way up and to just let them take your car. I don't know what else you're supposed to do if there's no police. If you have no police to respond to these things, here you go, kids. Have fun. Good luck. Enjoy yourselves. Don't break the speed limit now. Drive safely. Put your seatbelts on, young boys and girls. The pendulum's going to swing the other way, folks. People are going to get tired of these stories, rightfully so. All right, all those questions came over from watching thewatchers.locals.com.